Wait, because the timing of this is what has everybody spiraling. 1 minute, the internet is doing what it always does, recycling old clips and turning them into memes. The next minute, a whole new wave of reports, commentary segments, and reaction videos starts popping up, all pointing to the same thing. 50 Cent's documentary.
Is this real life? I feel crazy. The world is spinning around me. What's happening?
Is reopening questions the industry has spent years pretending didn't exist. And now, people are watching those old moments with brand new eyes. And listen, before we go any further, this is commentary. We're not saying anything here is confirmed. We're not claiming anything actually happened. We're talking about what's being discussed publicly, what's being recirculated, and why the conversation is suddenly louder than ever. Because the moment this documentary angle started trending, fans immediately dragged one name into the storm: Diddy. And then, like gasoline on a match, Justin Bieber's name got pulled into it too. Not because he's made direct act.
Yeah, so as soon as you turn 16, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you rock this every time you come to LA. Yeah, it's gonna be yours. So every time you come to LA, it's a little dusty, but you know, go get the front shot of this.
Man.
That out. Minute.
Woo. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna be driving this next year.
Yeah, when you get 16, you come down, you gotta, you know, wear your seat.
I mean, I'm 15. You could ride in the passenger seat. I got my permit. Not yet.
No.
All right, 16.
You're not ready.
16.
Let's slow down. Let's slow down, Justin.
Okay.
Let's slow down. Okay.
One step at a time.
But yeah, the keys is yours when when you get 16. You're good to go.
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Then when you get 18, you get the house. You get the mansion.
Okay. I get the mansion.
Yeah.
So where are we off to now?
Where would you like to go?
I mean, wherever you want to go. Where are we going?
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
I'm taking this out tonight.
What you want to do? What you want to do over the next 48 hours?
48 hours. Let's go. Let's just go get some girls. Let's go hang out some girls.
A man after my heart. That's what I'm talking about, kid.
Accusations, not because there's some official statement, but because people are revisiting those old videos and asking questions they didn't ask back then. And that's where things get messy. People are split right down the middle. Some fans are saying, this is exactly why the industry is toxic. Others are yelling, leave Bieber out of it. And then you've got the ones who swear the documentary is about to expose more than anyone is ready for, claiming there are insiders whispering, lawyers watching, and people in powerful circles suddenly going quiet. And the wild part? It's not even the documentary itself that has everyone frozen. It's the reaction to it. The silence, the sudden scrambling, the way certain names are trending, then disappearing.
This man is having sex with underage. So now the federal government is looking at that like, yo, when is somebody going to come forward? We got this information, this alleged information, but nobody's willing to come forward. Then they go on and say, yo, Shakur Stewart mysteriously dead. Supposed to be a self-inflicted wound. Person that had everything going for them in their life. Kim Porter dead. Somebody's car gets blown up. This guy is walking around threatening other actors, people. Somebody got to get involved in it. If it ain't the state, let it be the feds. Somebody got to stop him. He lucky that God given him the opportunity to be stopped while he's alive, then have to go to hell and face that shit. He got a chance to repent now, change his life.
You mentioned minors, and a lot of people have been trying to drag Justin Bieber into this situation because there's a lot of suspect looking videos with Diddy and Bieber in it, and they're making a lot of
the way some creators are saying they're being warned to watch what they say, and the way fans are noticing that people who used to joke about these clips aren't laughing anymore. Because when the same old footage starts feeling different, it's not just nostalgia, it's suspicion. And now the question isn't, why are people talking? The question is, what made them brave enough to talk now? Because if this really is the moment the industry's old secrets stop being jokes and start being questions, then somebody's reputation is about to take a hit. And fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the internet is moving like it knows another shoe is about to drop. So stay right here, because what comes next is the part nobody wants to say out loud. The moment the documentary narrative started spreading, the atmosphere around the music industry shifted in a way fans could feel but couldn't quite explain. Timelines filled with clips people had seen before, yet this time the reactions were different. Comments weren't laughing emojis anymore, they were questions. People were asking why certain moments were brushed off for so long and why they suddenly felt heavier now. This wasn't about proving anything. It was about the growing sense that something important had been ignored, and now the conversation was refusing to stay quiet. Voices across social media began framing the documentary as less of a revelation and more of a reminder. According to commentators, 50 Cent wasn't claiming to expose secret crimes, but rather pointing at patterns that were always there. Patterns of power, silence, and young talent navigating spaces controlled by adults with influence. Fans are shocked not because of new footage, but because of how familiar everything looks. One fan wrote, "We watched this stuff years ago and never stopped to ask why it felt off." That sentence alone spread faster than the clips themselves. As reactions intensified, discussions about Diddy resurfaced almost instantly. Again, not as confirmed wrongdoing, but as a symbol of how the industry operates. People online described him as a gatekeeper, someone whose approval could change careers overnight. Commentators emphasized that this was about culture, not verdicts. They stressed repeatedly that no court ruling had declared anything, but that public perception was evolving. Emotions ran high as fans debated whether influence itself can create harm even without explicit intent. Then came the Justin Bieber angle, and that's where the tone shifted from curiosity to discomfort. Many fans said they remembered seeing him as a teenager everywhere, always surrounded by older figures, always being guided, managed, and promoted. In reaction videos, people paused old interviews and rewound moments that once felt playful. Now viewers described them as awkward, not criminal, not confirmed, just unsettling. The narrative forming online suggested that the real issue was how young artists are protected, or not protected, once fame accelerates faster than maturity. Commentary channels leaned into the emotional side of this discussion. They talked about pressure, burnout, and the cost of growing up under constant surveillance. One commentator said, "We're not saying anything happened, we're saying the environment itself deserves scrutiny." That line echoed across platforms because it gave people permission to talk without making accusations. The family was left divided, not in real life, but in public opinion, as fans argued over whether revisiting these moments was fair or exploitative. Meanwhile, reactions from industry insiders were noticeably muted. Fans noticed that some celebrities who usually speak on everything suddenly went quiet. Screenshots circulated showing deleted tweets and vague Instagram stories about healing and misunderstandings. To many viewers, that silence felt louder than any statement. Speculation grew, not about guilt, but about fear. Fear of being misquoted, misinterpreted, or dragged into a narrative that was gaining momentum beyond anyone's control. The documentary commentary also reopened discussions about Usher and other artists who entered the industry young. Again, no claims, no confirmations, just reflections. People pointed out interviews where artists themselves admitted they were exposed to adult realities too early. Fans argued in comment sections about responsibility. Some said parents should have stepped in, others blamed labels, others blamed the system itself, where success is prioritized over safety. The arguments grew heated, and friendships online were tested as people picked sides. One particularly viral reaction came from a fan who said, "This isn't about blaming one person, it's about asking why the same stories keep repeating." That idea became the backbone of the discussion. Betrayal wasn't framed as a single act, but as a collective failure. Betrayal by systems that normalized access over boundaries and fame over well-being. Emotions ran high as survivors of unrelated industries shared their own stories, drawing parallels and saying the documentary made them feel seen. Even critics of the documentary admitted something strange was happening. They argued that 50 Cent was exaggerating for attention, but conceded that the response proved a deeper hunger for accountability. Heated arguments erupted on live streams, with creators shouting over each other about intent versus impact. One said, "Just because something isn't illegal doesn't mean it wasn't wrong." Another fired back, "You're rewriting history." The clash only fueled interest, pushing the story further into trending territory. Throughout all this, the narrative stayed firmly in commentary territory. Every serious channel repeated the same disclaimer: these are discussions, not declarations. Yet the emotional weight kept building. Fans were left divided between defending their idols and questioning the structures that shaped them. Some said reopening old wounds helps no one. Others argued that ignoring them ensures they repeat. The tension between those views became the real drama, not any single clip or quote. As the conversation deepened, one thing became clear: this wasn't going to fade overnight. People weren't satisfied with quick explanations or dismissals anymore. They wanted context, reflection, and change. Whether the documentary was the cause or just the spark no longer mattered. What mattered was that the industry's past was being re-examined through a modern lens, and that lens wasn't as forgiving. By the end of this wave of reactions, the feeling online was unmistakable. Something had shifted. Not a conclusion, not a verdict, but a mood. A collective pause where fans, creators, and commentators all seemed to agree on one thing: ignoring uncomfortable questions had become harder than asking them. And once those questions are out there, they don't quietly disappear. The first wave of conversation didn't begin with the documentary itself, but with how quickly people reacted to it. As soon as clips and commentary started circulating, fans noticed that the tone online had shifted. This time, it wasn't jokes or nostalgia driving engagement, it was unease. People were revisiting moments they once laughed at and realizing they felt different now, not because of new facts, but because of new awareness, and that awareness spread fast. Commentators made it clear from the start that this was not about stating anything as proven. It was about acknowledging that reports, reactions, and discussions were happening everywhere at once. The documentary was framed as a spark, not a verdict. Fans are shocked because they feel like they are being asked to rewatch history with adult eyes instead of teenage fandom. Emotions ran high as timelines filled with side-by-side clips and captions asking simple but uncomfortable questions. One of the biggest reasons this gained momentum was familiarity. Nothing shown felt completely new. People recognized the interviews, the jokes, the behind-the-scenes footage, but now viewers were pausing, replaying, and saying things like, "Why did nobody question this back then?" Or,
"How did we all miss how young he was?" The power of the story wasn't in exposing secrets, it was in reframing memories. That reframing created tension between fans who wanted to protect their idols and those who wanted to talk honestly about systems. As discussions deepened, the focus shifted toward influence and access. Commentary channels emphasized that the industry runs on relationships and approval. Success often comes from being allowed into certain rooms. Fans began debating whether that access itself creates pressure that young artists cannot fully understand. No one was saying harm was guaranteed. They were saying the risk was obvious in hindsight, and hindsight is what made this wave of commentary feel heavier than past ones. People also began noticing how selective the responses were. Some figures spoke out quickly to dismiss speculation, while others stayed silent. Fans read meaning into that silence, not as admission, but as discomfort. Screenshots of old posts resurfaced and then vanished. Creators pointed out how quickly narratives were being managed. Again, not as proof, but as observation. This fed the idea that the industry knows how to control conversation, and when that control slips, anxiety follows. Another layer that intensified reactions was the emotional state of the artists being discussed. Fans brought up interviews where young stars talked about anxiety, exhaustion, and losing a sense of self. These clips weren't new, but they landed differently in this context. People connected dots between early pressure and later struggles. They talked about burnout, isolation, and growing up without normal boundaries. The family was left divided in public opinion, with some saying these struggles are part of fame, and others arguing they point to deeper problems. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. One side accused commentators of exploiting trauma for clicks.
The other accused offenders of refusing to listen. Heated arguments broke out during live streams, with creators interrupting each other and viewers spamming the chat. Phrases like, "This is bigger than one person," and "Stop rewriting history" were thrown back and forth. The drama wasn't scripted, but it followed a familiar reality TV rhythm, where conflict itself keeps viewers hooked. What made this phase especially intense was how personal it felt to fans. Many said they grew up watching these artists and felt protective. Revisiting old footage felt like questioning their own memories. Some fans admitted feeling guilty for laughing at moments that now seem awkward. Others rejected that guilt entirely, saying culture changes and context matters. Emotions ran high because this wasn't just celebrity gossip. It was about how society treats youth, power, and success. Commentators leaned into that emotional conflict, not to resolve it, but to highlight it. They repeated that no one was declaring guilt or rewriting legal history. They stressed that this was commentary on reports, reactions, and cultural patterns. Still, the impact was undeniable. Once people start questioning systems, they rarely stop at surface-level answers. The narrative grew beyond individual names and into a broader critique of how fame accelerates adulthood without protection. By this point, it was clear that the conversation had its own momentum. Whether the documentary intended this outcome or not became irrelevant. Fans were driving the story now, reacting to each other as much as to the content. Alliances formed and fractured in comment sections. Friendships between creators were tested publicly. Every new reaction video felt like another episode in an unfolding drama that no one could fully control. The atmosphere settled into a tense waiting period, not for confirmation, not for accusations, but for the next shift in conversation. People sensed that this wasn't the peak yet. It felt like the opening stretch of a longer storyline, one where perception mattered more than proof, and silence spoke as loudly as statements. And once that kind of tension takes hold, it doesn't fade quietly. As the discussion continued to spread, the tone shifted from shock to confrontation. Fans weren't just reacting anymore, they were arguing with each other in real time. Every clip sparked a debate, every reaction video triggered another response. Some viewers accused commentators of exaggerating normal industry behavior, while others insisted that normalization itself was the problem. Emotions ran high because neither side felt heard, and the algorithm rewarded the loudest voices. Online spaces began to fracture into camps. One group framed the conversation as overdue accountability, saying the documentary simply reopened questions that should have been asked years ago. Another group saw it as dangerous revisionism, claiming people were projecting modern standards on old moments. The back and forth grew personal. Fans unfollowed each other, creators subtweeted rivals, and
live stream chats filled with accusations of clout chasing and denial. The drama no longer belonged to the documentary, it belonged to the reaction. Commentators leaned into this divide, replaying the same moments but adding different emotional interpretations. A smile that once seemed playful was now described as forced. A joke once dismissed as harmless was now called uncomfortable. Nobody claimed intent, nobody claimed proof. They focused on impact. The idea that impact can exist without malicious intent became one of the most heated talking points. Fans are shocked by how deeply this argument cut into their sense of certainty. The discussion also expanded beyond the artists at the center. People started talking about managers, labels, and executives. They questioned who benefits when young talent is constantly surrounded by adults making decisions for them. Reactions poured in from former child stars outside the music world, sharing stories about pressure, exposure, and loss of control. These weren't accusations, they were parallels, and those parallels made the conversation feel bigger than any single name. As more voices joined in, fans noticed a pattern in public responses. Statements that did appear were carefully worded, focused on positivity and growth rather than specifics. To some viewers, that felt reassuring. To others, it felt evasive. Silence from certain figures became a storyline of its own. People weren't saying silence meant guilt. They were saying silence meant fear of missteps in a climate where every word is dissected. The family was left divided in perception, not by facts, but by interpretation. Heated arguments spilled into long-form videos where creators debated ethics versus legality. One side argued that revisiting old footage without new evidence was irresponsible. The other argued that refusing to reflect was worse. Phrases like, "we can talk without accusing," and "discussion isn't defamation," were repeated again and again. The repetition didn't calm things down, it amplified them. Viewers picked favorites, turning commentators into protagonists and antagonists in a drama fueled by views. What surprised many was how emotional fans became about defending systems rather than individuals. Some argued that the industry simply operates differently, and that success requires exposure to adult environments. Others pushed back hard, saying that explanation proves the need for change. The clash wasn't polite.
People typed in all caps, accused strangers of enabling harm, and demanded apologies from creators who questioned the narrative. Emotions ran high because the topic touched on vulnerability and responsibility. As the discourse intensified, reaction videos began to feel like episodes in a serialized show. Creators teased upcoming streams, promising deeper dives and new perspectives. Viewers waited in comment sections, speculating about what might be addressed next. Every tease fed anticipation. Even skeptics admitted they kept watching, unable to look away. The drama was no longer about truth or falsehood. It was about tension, uncertainty, and the feeling that something unresolved was hanging in the air. Another twist came when some fans turned their frustration inward. They questioned their own role as consumers. People admitted they supported content without thinking about the conditions behind it. Others rejected that idea, saying fans shouldn't carry responsibility for industry decisions. The debate grew philosophical, touching on capitalism, fame, and exploitation. What started as celebrity commentary now felt like a cultural reckoning, at least online. Throughout this phase, disclaimers remained constant. Creators reminded viewers they were discussing reports and reactions, not making claims. Still, the emotional charge kept building. Every reminder seemed to coexist with heightened drama rather than calming it. The more people insisted on nuance, the more polarized the audience became. Nuance doesn't trend as easily as conflict, and everyone could feel that tension playing out in real time. By now, the conversation had reached a point where stepping away felt difficult. Fans refreshed feeds looking for updates that didn't exist yet. Speculation filled the gaps. Some predicted apologies, others predicted documentaries within documentaries. None of it was confirmed. All of it was imagined. And imagination, fueled by emotional investment, proved just as powerful as facts in driving engagement. The overall mood settled into something heavy but unresolved. Not outrage, not closure, but sustained unease. People sensed that the story wasn't done evolving, even if new information emerged. Once a narrative reaches the stage, it feeds on reactions rather than revelations. And that realization left many wondering whether the industry was witnessing a temporary storm or the beginning of a longer shift in how its past is discussed. As the noise grew louder, a new layer of drama entered.
The conversation, one that shifted attention away from the clips themselves and toward the people reacting to them. Creators began calling each other out directly. Reaction videos weren't just responding to footage anymore, they were responding to other reactions. Fans watched as alliances cracked and former collaborators shaded each other on live streams. What started as commentary slowly turned into a public standoff over who was being responsible and who was chasing attention. Some creators claimed they were receiving messages warning them to tread carefully. Nothing concrete, nothing provable, just vague references to people behind the scenes and industry pressure. Those statements alone sent chat rooms into overdrive. Fans debated whether these warnings were real or exaggerated for drama. Either way, the effect was the same. Tension escalated. Viewers leaned closer to their screens, convinced that something bigger was happening just out of sight. Emotions ran high when fans began dissecting body language and tone in old interviews. Pauses were labeled uncomfortable. Laughter was described as nervous. Again, nobody framed this as evidence. They framed it as perspective. People argued that perspective changes with time and maturity. Others accused commentators of overanalyzing. The clash created a loop where every interpretation sparked a rebuttal, and every rebuttal sparked another breakdown video. This phase of the conversation also brought families into the narrative. Not real families speaking out, but symbolic ones. Fans talked about parents, guardians, and mentors as abstract figures who should have intervened. Arguments broke out over who holds responsibility when a young star becomes a global brand. Some said parents sign off on everything. Others said power imbalances make consent complicated even for families. The family was left divided in the public imagination, split between trust and regret. Another dramatic turn came when fans noticed how quickly narratives could flip. Creators who initially dismissed the conversation started softening their tone after backlash. Some issued clarifications, insisting they never meant to minimize anyone's experience. Those clarifications were analyzed just as intensely as the original statements. People asked why it took public pressure to acknowledge nuance. Trust eroded, and suspicion filled the gaps where clarity was missing. The comment sections became emotional confessionals. Viewers shared stories about their own youth, about being pushed into adult roles too early, about environments where saying no felt impossible. These stories weren't about celebrities, but they resonated with the themes being discussed. Commentators read them aloud on streams, their voices shifting as they realized the conversation had moved beyond entertainment. Still, they reminded viewers that the video was commentary, not confirmation, even as the emotional weight deepened. Critics of the discussion tried to redirect attention toward facts, pointing out the absence of legal findings.
Supporters countered that legal outcomes were never the point. They argued that culture often changes before courts do. This philosophical divide sharpened the drama. Heated arguments erupted where neither side felt extreme, yet both felt misrepresented. Viewers picked sides not based on evidence, but on values. What kept the momentum alive was unpredictability. Every day brought a new angle, a new reaction, a new controversy over wording. Creators teased private conversations they refused to fully share. Fans speculated endlessly about what those conversations contained. Even skepticism became content, with videos titled around disbelief and fatigue. Paradoxically, those videos drew massive engagement from people who claimed they were tired of the topic but couldn't stop watching. As the story evolved, attention shifted toward the idea of accountability without accusation. Could an industry acknowledge harm without admitting guilt? Could it create safeguards without rewriting history? These questions dominated panels and live discussions. Emotions ran high because the stakes felt moral rather than legal. People weren't asking who should be punished, they were asking who should change. The drama intensified when some fans accused platforms of selectively amplifying certain voices. They pointed out how some videos were demonetized or buried while others thrived. Whether intentional or algorithmic, this fueled another layer of mistrust. Creators accused each other of benefiting from outrage while pretending to condemn it. Viewers watched as credibility became the newest currency under scrutiny. By now, the conversation felt self-sustaining. Even days without new footage produced hours of analysis. Creators recapped recaps and fans debated debates. The original documentary became almost secondary. What mattered was the ripple effect, the way one piece of commentary exposed fault lines across
Fandoms and industries. People began to ask whether the discomfort they felt was temporary or necessary. Through it all, the disclaimers never disappeared. Everyone repeated that this was discussion, not declaration. Yet repetition didn't dull the impact. If anything, it highlighted how powerful discussion alone can be. Without making claims, the narrative still reshaped perception. Fans found themselves rethinking what they once accepted without question. As the stage of the drama settled in, a strange calm followed the chaos. Not resolution, but reflection. Viewers seemed to realize that no single video would answer everything. The questions being raised were larger than one documentary or one wave of reactions. They touched on fame, youth, power, and silence. And once those themes take hold, they don't vanish easily. They linger, waiting for the next moment that forces everyone to look again. As the conversation reached its most intense phase, something unexpected happened. The noise slowed, not because interest faded, but because people began processing what they had already absorbed. Reaction videos became quieter, more reflective. Creators who once shouted over each other now spoke slower, choosing words carefully. Fans noticed the shift immediately. It felt like the moment after a major argument, when emotions are still raw, but the adrenaline has worn off. This phase wasn't about escalation anymore. It was about consequences. Not legal consequences, not official statements, but cultural ones. Viewers began asking what happens after a conversation like this takes hold. Some argued that nothing ever changes, and that the industry will move on as it always does. Others believed that even temporary discomfort can force subtle shifts behind the scenes. Emotions ran high because both possibilities felt realistic. Fans also began confronting fatigue. Some admitted they were overwhelmed by the constant debate. They wanted clarity, not endless speculation. Others pushed back, saying discomfort is the price of growth. Comment sections reflected that divide. One person wrote that revisiting these topics was emotionally exhausting. Another replied that exhaustion doesn't erase responsibility. The family was left divided again, not by new information, but by how much people were willing to sit with uncertainty. Creators who continued covering the topic leaned into broader storytelling. Instead of replaying the same clips, they talked about cycles of fame, cycles of silence, cycles of rediscovery. They pointed out how every generation seems shocked by the same patterns, only to forget them once the spotlight moves on. This framing resonated with viewers who felt like they had seen the story before, even if the names change. A noticeable change also appeared in how fans talked about protection. Early on, the focus was on individual behavior. Now, the emphasis shifted to safeguards. People asked why industries built around young talent still rely on informal boundaries, why mentorship often blurs into control, why success stories rarely include discussions about what went wrong along the way. These questions didn't accuse anyone directly, but they challenged the status quo in a way that felt more threatening than gossip. Some creators attempted to bring closure by summarizing the discussion as a lesson learned. Those attempts were met with mixed reactions.
Supporters appreciated the effort to move forward. Critics accused them of trying to wrap up a story that wasn't finished. Closure felt premature to many viewers. The unresolved nature of the conversation had become its defining feature, and forcing an ending felt dishonest. Another twist came when fans began scrutinizing their own consumption habits. They questioned why certain content thrives only when controversy is attached. Some creators acknowledged this openly, admitting they benefited from the same systems they criticized. Those admissions earned respect from some viewers and suspicion from others. Authenticity itself became contested ground, adding another layer of drama. As days passed, the story settled into a quieter but deeper presence online. It stopped trending aggressively, but it didn't disappear. References popped up in unrelated discussions. Phrases from earlier debates resurfaced as shorthand for larger ideas. The conversation had seeped into the background, influencing how fans interpreted new content without announcing itself loudly. What stood out most was how little anyone wanted to declare victory. There was no moment where one side felt proven right. Instead, there was a shared acknowledgement that something uncomfortable had been exposed, even if it remained undefined. People learned that conversations don't need conclusions to leave marks. Sometimes the act of questioning alone changes how stories are remembered. In this final stretch of the main discussion, viewers began to look ahead rather than backward. They speculated
about how future documentaries might be received, whether younger artists would be protected differently, whether fans would question narratives sooner next time. None of these questions had answers, but asking them felt significant. It suggested growth, or at least awareness. Creators closed their videos with reminders that this was commentary, that no claims were being made, that reports and reactions were the focus. Those reminders no longer felt defensive. They felt grounding, a way to keep the conversation rooted in reflection rather than accusation. Emotions ran high less often now, replaced by a cautious seriousness. By the time this wave of discussion reached its natural pause, one thing was clear. The industry hadn't been put on trial, but it had been put under a microscope. Fans hadn't reached agreement, but they had reached awareness. And awareness, once sparked, doesn't fully go away. It waits, quietly, until the next moment that forces everyone to look again. Now that you've seen how this conversation unfolded, the real question is what you think comes next. This isn't about declaring winners or pointing fingers. It's about recognizing that discussions like this don't appear out of nowhere. They surface because people are watching more closely, listening differently, and asking questions they once ignored. And whether you agree with the commentary or not, it clearly struck a nerve. Remember, this video is commentary. We are talking about reports, reactions, and public conversations that are happening right now. We are not saying these things are proven. We are not claiming events happened exactly as some people suggest. What we are doing is reflecting on why these stories are resurfacing, why emotions ran high, and why so many fans felt compelled to speak up. Now, it's your turn. Do you think revisiting these moments is necessary, or do you believe the industry is being unfairly judged through a modern lens? Do conversations like this help protect young talent in the future, or do they only create confusion and division? The family was left divided in public opinion, and that division says a lot about where we are as an audience today. If this story made you pause, question, or even disagree, let us know. Drop your thoughts in the comments and explain your perspective respectfully. Your voice matters in shaping how these conversations evolve. If you want more deep dive commentary like this, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown. Turn on notifications so you're always part of the discussion as new stories emerge. And if you know someone who's been following this topic, share this video with them and see what they think. At the end of the day, conversations don't end when the video does. They continue with you.